Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Star Trek New Worlds. If you're new here, thank you for joining us live here on Saturday at 11 o'clock. If you're catching us on the replay, thank you for taking the time. If you are new and you are wondering what in the world Star Trek New Worlds is, it is a turn-based strategy game that we play online with you, broadcasting it to you live here on YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch. We play it using the rule set as published by the Amarillo Design Bureau for the game Federation and Empire. And of course, we show you the wonderful graphics on Vassal, an open source tabletop simulator that we use for this. If this is your first time, let me walk you around the screen real quick. You can see over there on the side we have the chat, and in between me and the chat is the QR code. If you are so inclined during the course of our broadcast and would like to throw a little caffeination stimulation our way, you can use the QR code or the link down below. Support us at coffee/newworlds, and you can send us a quick disruptor fire of coffee. Pew, 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 as Jim says. So yes, you can do that. And of course, on the bottom, you'll see a white bar that will track us to our live stream goal today of 3 coffee donations. So as we work our way forward, you will see that bar progress as we move through those. So thank you, everybody, for the exciting, delighting, oh, that's interesting, stuff that's going on here. I love dealing with stuff, technical problems in the midst of the show. Always exciting. All right. Right. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This caught my attention. All of a sudden, there's a black screen where I should be sharing the map. So I'll just switch back here and try and sort that out on the fly. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about some exciting and delighting things. There you go. Coffee fired. You can see in the chat that that was from the Juggernauts. Thank you. The Juggernauts are universal foe that you will see in our map once I can get that up and running. Yes, so thank you very much. Let's take a quick sip. Notice the progression on the bar. And I forgot to mention, thank you to Upin Hart, who was our most recent subscriber. In this past week, we have seen a spike of interest as we are working towards our goal of 500 subscribers to unlock the community tab here on YouTube. Thank you for everybody who is a recent subscriber, and of course, all of our current subscribers helping us on our journey forward as we try and unlock that tab. We are making huge strides, at least in the past week, perhaps because in a war game, we finally have gone to war. All right, so let's talk about some of the exciting things in today's headline news or galactic news. Let's slide on over. Oh, another coffee has been fired. Oh my goodness. Oh, Jesus. Hold on. Let me take a quick sip. Oh my goodness. Hydron caffeine is the best caffeine. I can see a competition between the Hydrons and the Juggernauts for whose coffee is best. The Hydrons or the Juggernauts? You tell me. All right. Let's not take too long and let's jump into the galactic news. A bridge too far? Klingon forces drove deep into Carnarvon space this year in a bold gambit to cut off supply lines between Carnarvon and Hydron space. Last-minute maneuvering by the Carnarvon Navy managed to prevent this disaster. Other Carnarvon bases were not so lucky, as Klingon ships closed in on targets of opportunity behind the front line. The Carnarvon counterattack has recaptured the war-torn planet of Zoid, and the initiative in this fleet feels balanced on a knife's edge. Lyran's advance. Lyran forces continue their offensive against the Remans by surrounding the Reman outpost at FF06. Will the Western Reman stronghold fall to the Cats, or are we seeing the start of an extended siege? Lost in space. A Lyran exploration vessel was dispatched to investigate the strange entity in Sector Victor 11. The last anyone heard of this ship was a garbled distress call cut short before any useful information could be discerned. What is it that haunts the southern Lyran reaches? Has their hubris in building the rumored monster attraction device finally come home to roost? Juggernauts roll on. The Juggernaut fleet in Romulan space has gone on a rampage without so much as an offer for surrender terms. The Juggernaut Raider fleet destroyed a base station in Sector Sierra 40. Will they be satisfied with this and go away, or is their appetite for destruction insatiable? Tholian treachery. The Tholians launched a massive military strike against the peace-loving, independent Borak world of Alforia. While the attack was eventually repulsed, it was only done at great cost. Reports of Tholian shock troops wreaking destruction on the surface and half of Green Dragon Fleet in flames have shocked our readers across the civilized galaxy. What could precipitate such a brazen act of warmongering? Thus far, officials within the Tholian government have been suspiciously silent. Click here to agree to all terms. It seems the recent and dangerous improvement in pirate technology is spreading. All over the southern galaxy, pirate strongholds are signing their EULAs, EULAs, upgrading their systems and rebooting for better freebooting. Pundits are predicting a new era of terror on the trade lanes. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our galactic news. Well, that was very exciting. Yes, so while I'm talking here, let me try and sort out in the back end what is going on with the map. As you may or may not know, desktop capture. When we do these things live, it's always exciting to figure out how in the world we do these things or fix problems on the fly without looking like the craziness. There we go. Look, desktop capture. Hard to talk and think at the same time, obviously, as I try and fix that which was broken. And success. Ladies and gentlemen, let's jump to the map. The map is back up and running, and since we were just talking about the kitty cats and the siege of Riemann territory, perhaps that is a good place to start. But before we get rolling into the who's who in the zoo and who's poppin' whom, let's start with the EP and fleet cap summary. I'll put it actually in the top corner here. Maybe it's a little bit easier to see what with all of our business going on in the rest of the map. All right, let's start with the EP. Oh, this is going to be exciting. All right, the Carnivon, how far they have fallen. 31.5 EP is their current economy. Federation at 47.5. The Gorn at 49, scratching on the edge of 50. The Hydrons have been reduced to an even 10. The ISC at 41.5. The Klingons have soared ahead at 64.5 EP. Jeez Louise. The Lyrans at 48.5. The Remans, 57.5. The Romulans at 48.5. And the Tholians, now in number 3 position at 54.5. All right, let's talk about the fleet cap, the ships in circulation, how much damage has been done? Well, the Carnivon's still riding high with a fleet of 120 ships with a 283 attack and 464 defense. The Federation with 70 ships with a 192 attack, 307 defense. Let me just take a second. Look at the Carnivon number at 464 as their defense factors compared to their fleet cap of 508. That big delta is the difference between crippled and non-crippled ships. So there are a lot of new crippled ships in the Carnivon fleet. The Gorn are at 68 ship equivalents with a 158 attack, 284 defense. The Hydrons losing a couple ships, it would seem, at now 61 total ship count with a 149 attack, 251 defense. The ISC still over 100 at 105 ships with 341 attack, 488 defense. Jeez Louise, man. These fleets are huge. The Klingons now at 91 total ships, getting close to that 100 mark with a 261 attack, 338 defense, and this is the kicker. Look at the 338 versus the 378 of their fleet cap. So quite a few crippled ships after this recent round of combat. The Lyrans are at 79 ship equivalents with a 189 attack, 359 defense. The Remans are at, 158 ship equivalents, 158 total ships. Wow. 465, and they are the only faction to pop 600 in their total defense factors. Wow. The Romulans are at 62. That's quite a step down, eh? From 158 to 62 ship equivalents at 170 attack, 275 defense. And the Tholians are rounding us out at a total of 80 ships with a 110 attack factor, 302 defense. Obviously, their recent attack against Flaming Dragon or Green Dragon is paying the price. They are at 302 for their defense factors versus the 315 of their fleet cap. So very interesting to see that. What do you think of the changes in the economy? What's going on? We'll get to the southern part of the map and dig into the juiciness of the phase 2 of the Klingon attack, which is basically been the reason for that giant jump and decrease in economy, relatively speaking. But let's talk about what we're seeing right now. The siege of Foxtrot 6. So this is this is going to be very interesting to see how this all pans out. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the Lyrans, come to the center line, talk about the Remans, and then talk about the siege. So as we look to the Remans, we can see a couple of things going on. We mentioned, for example, in the Galactic News, the crazy swarm that is occurring in Victor 11 here. And of course, they sent a ship and the ship was destroyed. So the question is, what's happening with that swarm? If, as we mentioned in the last live stream, the swarm is a bunch of self-replicating robots, what have they done with the remnants of that ship that was sent to investigate? Have they destroyed it? Have they absorbed it? Have they become stronger, more powerful, more difficult to deal with as a consequence? We'll have to see. Other than that, we've got the continuation of the exploration on the sort of bottom corner of the Lyran territory. We've got a couple of YSRs, or exploration ships, survey ships, and 2 exploration or survey freighters in this area here near the swarm. I think the swarm, if I'm a instinct-driven, self-replicating robot, may go after these very defenseless resources for replication, you might say. What else we got here? We've got a tug free-floating in space, and Blood Star and Far Stars sitting over the wormhole to Carnarvon territory. Let's do a quick look at what's in those fleets before we get to the real deal, Holyfield. Enemy's Blood Fleet. Again, a relatively small fleet, as we can see. And Far Stars. Where's the Lyran Far Stars fleet. Boom. All right, so as we've seen before, not a lot of business going on here. We've got a total of 3 destroyers and 3 frigates, although 2 of those frigates are WR frigates, and then there's a YCL. More than enough to be able to create some kind of a speed bump for anything coming through that wormhole, but nonetheless, it is not much. As we move to the right, or to the east, one might say, we can see a couple of things here. We've got a WR destroyer, 2 WR destroyers, and that transport, which has the survey pallet on it. Interesting that you can. That's a great little trick for the Lyrans to be able to use that survey pallet to do survey missions. And what else we got here? We got a YCA, a couple YCAs at the Y dock, and then, well, the big bit of business on the front with the Remans. What do we got here? We've got Apex sitting on this planet. Lyran. Here we are, Apex Fleet. Oh, I'm going to have to go hunting for these, aren't I? Where's Apex? Apex. It's not there. Apex Fleet. There we are. Okay, so there's Apex Fleet. We'll put this in the top left. This is Apex Fleet right here, which is a CC, a CL, and a commando destroyer. We have a frigate sitting here on this resource, and then Hidden Dagger Fleet sitting here. Let's look up Lyrin, Hidden Dagger, Blood, Hidden Dagger Fleet. There we are. Aha. That's got a little something. So there's Hidden Dagger. We have here a troop transport. So this is interesting. This boxy looking thing called out, or it's the topmost icon there, the YFTL. It is a Y-era freighter troop transport or landing craft. And so it's holding a total of 4 G factors to be able to use in a ground assault if that's what's going to occur. Of course, you can also use G factors when assaulting a base, and we'll get to that in a moment, which would be bad news for the Remans. Enemy blood there as well. Lyrin enemy blood. Enemy blood fleet. There we go. Is that enemy blood? Yeah, enemy blood right there. We'll put that right there. And we've got Foremost and Home Fleet. Home Fleet. I'll leave this over here on the right. You can see that up on top there. And Foremost. There we go. Foremost Duchy, Foremost Fleet. Here we Oh, there it is. Okay. So let's take a big picture of what's going on here. We've got Home Fleet, which is right here on the top. Then Foremost Fleet right next to this this YDK. Then we've got Enemy Blood, which is right here. Then we've got the Troop Transport, Hidden Dagger Fleet, which is over here on the left, and then the Apex, which is just above. So quite a collection of ships, all said and done. What do the Remans have in defense? We've got New and Prometheus Fleet from the Reman side. Let's take a gander. Prometheus Fleet right there, and Reman New Fleet. There we go. After we talk about this little battle, or this little siege, let's jump into the chat, and I can see quite a bit of chitter-chatter going on there, so we'll check in with everybody and say hello. All right, so here we got an interesting situation. As you can see, when you add Prometheus and New Reman Fleet together, there's not much here. We've got a total of 13 E2s, or KE2s, which are basically frigates. We've got a total of 7 destroyers, or KF4s, and we have a total of 3 cruisers, or KDF4s. Not nothing, but certainly not a massive fleet. However, what do they have around them? You can see that the major threat is Foremost Fleet. You can see Foremost has the heavy destroyer. It has 2 command cruisers, 3 YCAs, 3 YCLs, a total of 9, 10, 11. Nope, sorry, 6, 7, 8. There we are. 8 destroyers and 3 frigates, a couple of crippled ships, interestingly enough, and a tug. So, interesting. Okay. There's an interesting table we could pull up here, and I'll save it for the players to pull up on their own. The compot table, where you can pull up all the fleets and their total compot. But let's just look at ship count, basically. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, plus our 8. That's a total of 20, technically 21 ships, not including the cripples. So 21 ships versus 1, 2, 3 cruisers. So 3 plus the 7 is 10, plus the 12, 13. So 23 versus 20 ships, at least in that fleet, and the Remans have the benefit of the YDK. So all said and done, it's not terrible in the sense of the Remans are in a good spot. But there is a challenge in this situation. The positioning of all these Lyran ships has cut off supply to the YDK. And while the base will always be in supply as per the rules, the ships that surround the base may not be. Meaning that unless the base has access to a partial supply grid or the main supply grid or resources in the surrounding area that it has access to, it will be very difficult for it to be able to effectively provide supply. Now, the one advantage here is, and it depends on who goes first. You can see here, if I take away the ships real quick, there is a base here, and there's a very clear supply line leading to the homeworld. So they are connected via supply. However, you might think that it's blocked off. This ship, being non-crippled, has the ability to affect the reaction range of 1 hex, meaning that this hex, Hotel 5, is open for supply. Same thing with these ships and Gulf 6. So this supply route is open, meaning that these ships are in supply. Dicey, though, because that's quite the collection of ships, and depending on who goes first, and let's just remind myself who's first on the list. The Lyrans are at 48.5, and the Remans are at 57, so the Lyrans will go first. Oh, but we'll have to balance it because there's an alliance. So is the Northern Alliance total economy bigger than the total economy of the Federation and the Lyrans? My gut says yes, but I'll let you do the math, and we'll see who goes first in what initiative. Let's assume the Lyrans go first, and they'll attack this base. If they go first at the beginning of their turn, this base is in supply, meaning that all the ships in it are in supply. And when they do attack, those ships will be effective at defending themselves. But, as we've seen, there is quite a collection of ships that they can attack. Hidden Dagger Fleet, if it adds its weight to the battle, which it certainly can, it's within range to do so, will add a second heavy destroyer, another CC, CA, CL, and another 4 DDs and 3 FFs. So when it comes to a pure ship count, you're going to see that the ship count is certainly going to be in the favor of the Lyrans. Also, the total attack factors, when you look at their ships, be with more heavy dreadnoughts, command cruisers, and cruisers. They're going to have a little bit of an advantage on the attack factor. But the Remans, by default, sort of, with their ships, their F4s have a 3 attack, 4 defense. That's almost the same attack factor, at least, as the Lyrans cruiser and light cruiser and below. Their command cruiser obviously is bigger, and their heavy dreadnought is bigger, but the destroyers for the Remans are a fantastic ship. As a Klingon, I say that with pride, and they're great in this kind of instance. They do have a 4 defense factor, which makes them a little bit softer target, but when you're going up against cruisers and light cruisers, definitely hitting above its weight. The fact that they've got both the YDK and the 3 cruisers on the Reman side means that there are two possible objectives here. One, a stalling tactic, meaning that the Lyrans won't be able to effectively take out this target, and if they concentrate their energy and effort on trying to siege or totally take out this YDK, they'll whittle themselves down, take time to do so, and it just buys the Remans time. Or the second thing, the Lyrans may be successful in taking out this YDK, but they will bleed in the process, and there will be a lot of casualties as a result, or crippled ships. If we take away the ships real quick, you'll notice the lack of repair facilities in the area, not only for the Remans, but also for the Lyrans. The Lyrans' nearest repair facility is here in Alpha 8, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hexes away from that YDK. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hexes, excuse me, 5 hexes away from the YDK. So their ability to destroy, retrograde, and then repair based on their most likely 4 supply and, of course, Y-era 4 movement would mean that they would have to, if they destroy this target, be unable to retreat out of the hex and would have to take essentially 2 turns to be able to get back to this base after attacking and then begin repairs. That's going to take time. So the question is, what is the Lyran objective here? Are they trying to bog down New Fleet and Prometheus in an effort to move past them and do other damage further down the line or closer to the Reman homeworld? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this goes because, as you can see, take away the ships real quick, this is the Reman capital. And there's not a lot in between. There is a KT4 here. There is a base here. But we're missing bases. We're missing infrastructure. We're missing that defensive line to stop the Lyrans from rolling in and going to town. So the question is, for the Remans, how are they best going to be able to defend against this Lyran onslaught? Are the Lyrans just bogging down, tying up New and Prometheus fleets so that they can get in there and do damage? Or are they just using it... Are they going to spend lots of time and energy and take out this target? Possibly. Or are they just going to skip by and try and make it a run for the homeworld? If you're going to skip the YDK and just keep ships there to bog down New Fleet and Prometheus, the challenge will be not leaving yourself vulnerable to attack, because depending on how the Remans want to respond, you may find yourself overextended and then effectively out of supply and catch yourself in a bad situation if you're the Lyrans. Either way, for the Remans, this is a threat, not only because the YDK is under threat, but the potential consequences of it going to the homeworld are significant. How many ships do they have in the area? We'll have to see as we sort of go through the rest of the Reman turn. But what do you think? Let's jump into the chat real quick, as we mentioned, and chitter chat with what's going on in the chat. Okay, let's start off. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Eugene, our public affairs officer, giving us the latest and greatest updates in the news. Eugene starts off with, will the Reman distraction leave the ISC to face Hydran forces alone? Do they have the strength with war fatigue to make progress alone? Have the Tholians begun the assault on the independent planet? Well, we heard that in the news, that is for sure. All of these questions and more will be answered in this week's update. Bill is in the house. Gorns have entered. Shields raised. Weapons charged. We come in peace. Please surrender now. Darn translator device. Bill is in the house. Took 12 hours to process all the war turns. Yes, this turn, let's just say right now, big heroic hooah to our GM Daniel for the ridiculous amount of battle emails that he had to deal with. Alone on the Klingon Carnivon front, there were 14 different battles, one of which we will go over later on today. Oh my God, not to mention the Remans, the ISC, the Hydrans, and all the other factions that were going on. The Reman Carnivon War alone, 14 different battles. Unreal. All right. Wayne Dan is in the house. I have sound. Carl is here. Hey, hey. Unce, he says. Pew, pew. Daniel, here we go. The Juggernauts and the Hydrans firing caffeine our way. Thank you very much. Taking a big sip. Bill, made from the best... Oh, my God. Made from the best baby Hydrans. Hydran caffeine. Carl, confirming Hydran caffeine or coffee is best. It's distilled from only the finest Klingons. Oh, my goodness. Charles, Chuck is in the house. 77B HBS. I'm not sure what that is. Chuck, you're going to have to let me know. Jim, quote of the week, rebooting for better freebooting. Absolutely. Daniel writes those Galaxy Today headlines. They are epic. All right. Big happy faces. Bill Litton's in the house. Jim, weird. I lost one ship in the turn, and yet I go down by 3 ships. GM explanation needed. I don't know. Bill says, those Orion shenanigans... Those Orion shenanigan turns are ugly. You stopped paying them, so they repoed 2 or 3 ships. So everyone, if a Hydran Vol rolls up with pimped out nacelles, it's a trap. Very, very, yeah, pimp my ride, Orion edition. Jim, our defensive line was blown away by Orion mercenary attacks. Ooh, Bill Linton. I think Pegasus Fleet was supposed to be in the same hex as the KT4, but Dell didn't stay on chat long. Jim, his orders sent it where it is on his order sheet. Ah, Bill says. Jim, he meant it to go where the tug was, which was trying to upgrade the base that was destroyed by Orion mercenary attack. Snafu, I think. So it sounds like there were a lot of Orion attacks that blew out bases in the back end. very interesting to see. All right. Well, let's get ourselves into the exciting and delighting tales of the Remans. So beyond our wonderful discussion about the siege of the YDK, as we mentioned, there are some Orion attacks that blew out bases in Juliet 8 here, or Juliet 8. And of course the KT4 was trying to upgrade that. Pegasus Fleet sitting here on the edge. Let's just take a quick look at what Pegasus Fleet is. Not nothing, but certainly, it's something. It's KD4, 3 F4s, and K2s. So here's an interesting thing. We talked about this sort of a little bit, or actually, we didn't talk about it in the live stream. We talked about it in Discord. If you, we have a Discord channel about this game, and so if you, as part of our community, enjoy and like all the witty banter that you see here in the chat, and would like to partake in some more of this foil fare back and forth verbally, then or in chat, you can do that over at our Discord channel. Join us with our community. You can see the narrative and the role play that goes on behind with some of the stuff. There was some actually quite funny stuff about a news, what's it called? A news briefing that the Carnivons gave, and there were questions from the Gorn and a Klingon press agent and various things. It was quite amusing to read that going back and forth. It was good. But if you want to be part of our Discord channel and part of our community there, then please feel free. Head over to that link at Coffee, and you can see there is a tier where you can join us on the Discord channel and, of course, support us on a more monthly schedule. So thank you for that if you do that already. Yes, Discord link, question mark. I could offer you can get the Discord link if you join us on that Coffee over there. If you want, Carl, you can check that out. If there are any problems about that, Carl, then you please let me know. If you've already done the Coffee and for whatever reason you're not getting the Discord link, then please reach out to me and let me know. Either on the Facebook, our Facebook Live, or you can do it here in the chat, and we'll go from there. So hopefully that answered your question, Carl. Gotcha, he says. Okay. Orions and contingency orders. This is the thing we were discussing. All right, so contingency orders are a big thing. Why? Because in this game, there is initiative, people who go first before others. The Orions in this game, by example, go first before everybody. How is initiative calculated? It's based on your economy. The bigger your economy, the last or the further down the line you go. If you are first in line, you go, you have the lowest economy, you'll go first. And then you have the ability to basically get or move on what you see on the map. So this map that you see when we go back to it is the map that everyone bases their turn on. If you have initiative, you move first. Everything that you see is exactly what it is when you move. Of course, if you're a second in initiative or after the person you're reacting against, like, for example, the Carnivons will be first in this next turn versus the Klingons, which will be second, then what will happen is the Klingons, in this case, have to write instructions to the GM in such a way to anticipate and respond to what they believe the Carnivons, in my case, may do. So in this case, what happened with the Remans is that the Remans did what they were going to do, and the Orion attack, which was probably organized by the Lyrans, devastated or destroyed one of their bases. Now, if Pegasus Fleet had been ordered in a sort of, in the wording around it had been moved to a base closest to the front or something along those lines, then maybe as the GM read and interpreted those instructions, he moved it to Lima 6. Excuse me. So that may be why that happened that way. Not sure. We'll have to see. But that's one of those things that you need to sort of take into account when you're writing the orders and you go second or later in the sequence of initiative. So anyways, we had a big discussion about that on our Discord channel. And let's just say that regardless of whether you are first or second, if you are writing contingency orders and you're later in the initiative, it's way more challenging. And there was a rationale and a reason for the Phase 1 and Phase 2 attack of the Klingons, which we'll get into, and it was around initiative. So we'll get to that in a moment. But let's get back to the remans real quick and talk about, as I'm trying to deal with my tickling nose, and let's talk about what's going on in the rest of their empire. As you can see here, there is a peppering of ships in various locations. This D3 here on this medium planet. Pegasus Fleet made its way up here, almost a full build. We have here on the homeworld, we have a frigate. Let's just take a look at the Reman capital, see what's there. We can see we have a YBS, a couple base planetary ground bases, but not much else going on there on the capital. We have Destiny Fleet, which is an ISC contribution, shall we say. So let's see, where Destiny is a YCL with a R&D. So they were R&D team, they were doing research and development back and forth, and the YCL is basically the taxi that got them there. But of course is still sitting there on the Hydran capital, and because they're allies, can contribute to the defense of the capital if required. Other than that, there's not much going on there. So let's scroll down and figure out where all the Reman ships are. After all, they have the biggest navy in the game. So let's figure out what's going on. Okay, as we go through ISC space, and we'll cover the ISC in just a moment, we can see a peppering or a scattering of minor ships, but the meat and potatoes is down here. Look at this. Okay, we've got Atlantis or Atlantia Fleet. The names always kind of catch me off guard. So here we have Atlantia Fleet, which is the topmost here. As you can see, full build cycle, 1 cruiser, 3 destroyers, 3 frigates on its way down south. We have Pacifica Fleet. I believe it's Pacifica. Yep, Pacifica Fleet. We'll move that up. And so you can see Pacifica Fleet here is located on the YDK that they upgraded in Oscar 24. Now that's got some meat to it. It's got a total of 12 destroyers, 12 frigates, and 2 cruisers, so quite a bit. Right beside it on the planet that that's right there, they have 3 KE2s and a tug. It looks like this KE2 had a little bit of a tussle with somebody and crippled itself out. And then we have Acropolis Fleet, which is sitting there right in the FTZ, Acropolis Fleet. And that is a single build cycle. We have a cruiser, 3 destroyers, 3 frigates right there. And as you can see, I'll take away the ships real quick. All of these red resources were Hydrans, or were Hydran resources, excuse me. And so the Hydrans were, I believe, 17 EP last turn. They lost 3, or they lost 6 at least. Obviously, they lost another one somewhere, which I'm not seeing. So they obviously lost resources here, and the Remans seem to have picked up what they lost. So you can see 3 and 3 respectively. And actually take away the ships real quick. You can see they do have a base in the capital hex here. So this base provides supply here, which allows that to be into their main supply grid. And of course, this base is doing the same here to provide or access those resources there. So the Reman economy continues to grow despite being attacked on the northern front. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, another coffee. We have reached our goal. Ooh, let's go back. Cheers to you. It was a new coffee subscription from Carl. Carl, you are the man. I'm going to just go out on a limb and say you probably, based on what you were asking about with Discord, might have gotten the Discord channel. If so, let's make sure we follow up after this and make sure that that all goes smoothly. You should be getting a prompt and a link to our Discord channel, and that should all work out just fine. If for whatever reason there is a challenge or a problem, then please head over to the New Worlds Facebook page. I will take a moment here in a second, and I will post that in the chat. Actually, Jim, Dan, somebody, if one of you guys can be kind enough to go grab the link to the Facebook page and just posted it in the chat here. Anyone can reach us via Facebook Messenger that way, and we'll just follow up, Carl, make sure that that transition to you get on our Discord server, that there are no issues, problems, and that it's as seamless for you as possible. But if one of you guys could do that for me, that would be fantastic. Thank you very much. Quick cheers to you, Carl. Ooh, we have hit our goal. All right. Hydrogen caffeine, Jim says. All right, let's get back into the map. All right, here we go. So what we got here is the Remans reaping their rewards from at the Hydrogen expense. And as you can see, it's just a bunch of frigates claiming territory. But here's the interesting part. Columbia Fleet with a tug. What's going on? Let's go check out what's in Columbia Fleet. Oh, snap. I just realized you can't see that. Whoop. I'm just going to let you drink that in for a second. I know it's on your screen, so you're probably leaning in real hard to see. So let me give you the count. There are a total of 4 cruisers. There are a total of 16 KF4s. There are 3 frigates. So this is a fleet of 16, 17, 18, 19, 23 non-crippled ships with a couple little cripples here, 2 frigates and a destroyer that are crippled. So basically 25 ships ready to drop the hammer on whatever they can reach. What is it that they can reach? Let's just take a quick look here. There was past tense a base in this hex. There is currently a base here, which I'm going to go out on a limb and say is on the chopping block. There's another Carnarvon base here, which may also be on the chopping block. And we've got a Hydrogen base under construction here in Oscar 30, which I believe is probably very vulnerable. So we'll talk about the Hydrogens in a second, but as you can see, Columbia Fleet is a hammer waiting to drop, and there's going to be quite a bit of casualty as a result. So we'll have to see how this goes. And of course, with a tug in position there are 2 things that could happen. One, it could provide extended supply, in which case all those ships are going to be doing a lot of damage, or it could build a base, and because of the size of that fleet, no one's going to stop it anytime soon. So it'll be able to finish building its base and then wreak havoc in that area, not only grabbing more Hydrogen resources, but just making things very difficult for the remaining Hydrogens that are there. But let's take a second and look at the ISC, which is the second half to this puzzle, and see what's going on. All right. As you can see, in the back end of the ISC, there's not much going on here, except for, is this Integrity Fleet? We'll have to pull it up and see what's going on. Named echelons. So let's slide this up a little bit. We'll put this over here. No, we'll put this right here. Okay. So Integrity Fleet. Here we are. We've got a command cruiser, a light cruiser, 2 frigates, and a Marshal team. Nothing too crazy. So a total of 3 frigates, because there's a frigate there that's not included in the fleet. Basically a task group of 5 ships that looks like, based on its position, may be on its way to help support the defense of the Reman capital. It can move it can move 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. However, because of the alliance, and I have to get a clarification with the GM, I do believe that they can strat move, although how many ships in that formation could strat move will be dependent on how many YDKs there are in the fleet, and I believe the max is 3 based on our tech tree. So those 3, let's say 3 ships could strat move to the capital potentially in this turn, and the remainder would be there the following turn through normal operational movement. So that's very interesting. And of course, they would be a expeditionary fleet or possibly a Homus fleet as far as the rules are concerned, and how that would be managed. As we scroll down, you can see there's not much else going on here except for Law Fleet sitting here with a tug. Law Fleet, as a reminder, is also a command cruiser, 2 light cruisers, and a collection of DDs. There are a total of 5 there. And tickly nose here. This is obviously standing guard against whatever may possibly come through the uniform wormhole, which, as a reminder, comes or leads into Federation space. But now, let's drink it in. Let's take a moment. Here's the real meat and potatoes. All right. We know that Third Fleet, and so these two YDKs have been the repair capacity for the stuff that is down south. Let's take a quick look and see what's in Third Fleet. I am going to guess nothing. There we are. So it's a YDD and an FF. And so those two ships are going to get repaired this turn and then move south. We have the YCL and the YDD. Actually, they'll probably leave at least one ship there just to be able to provide some kind of buffer and defense against Orion attacks, as that seems to be a popular thing. But when we get down here, what do we got? We've got Judgment Fleet sitting on the Hydran capital with a couple of CLs and a tug. So Judgment Fleet is, or I guess is it Judgment? Yeah, Judgment. There we go. Sorry, Judgment. It is a YCC. It is 4 DDs and a YFF. Nothing too crazy. So a total of, if you include the random ships, 3 YCLs, a CC, 4 DDs, and an FF. Not nothing, but certainly something. And of course, in addition, the Remans have Cerberus Fleet in that hex, and Athena. Reman Athena Fleet. So these two fleets, so 2 destroyers, 3 frigates, but another 6 destroyers. So a total of 8 non-crippled destroyers, 4 cruisers, a command cruiser, and a dreadnought. So between all those ships, more than enough to create a fight in the capital hex. But the real mass of their forces is standing in between the Hydran threat and the capital, and that is the collection of Enforcement, Truth, Justice, and Order Fleet. Enforcement is right here. This is the top. Dreadnought, cruiser, 6 light cruisers, 7 destroyers, a frigate. So that's fairly significant. In addition, we have, so that was Enforcement. Then there's Truth Fleet, which is the one on the bottom here. Dreadnought, a YCC, a YCA, 6 CLs, 5 DDs. So let's just add those together. That is 6 and 6, right? Yeah, 12, again, double digits, 12 CLs, 7 plus 5, another 12 DDs, 2 dreadnoughts, 2 cruisers, a command cruiser, and a frigate. So that alone is a ton. And then in addition, there's Order Fleet and Truth. Or sorry, Order Fleet, Order Fleet and Justice. So Justice is another CC, 2 CAs, another 4 on top of our 12, so 16 CLs, and 5 on top of our 12 DDs, so 17 DDs, and then and then Order, another CA, another 7 CLs. We're now in over 20 CLs. Same thing for DDs, and then a tug. So we're talking about 40 plus just light cruisers and destroyers, not to mention the near double digits in cruisers, the multitude of dreadnoughts and command cruisers. There is just such a collection of firepower on this hex. What is it aiming to do? Well, we have the Hydran threat here of Home and First Fleet. So let's just take a quick look at that. This is obviously the primary reason it's there. And here is the welcome party. First Fleet and Home Fleet. The Hydrans are going for their Hail Mary. And here it is. So we know that the Hydrans are struggling, obviously, economically. But let's be clear. This is not nothing that they have arrayed against the ISC. They have themselves 3 dreadnoughts. They have a total of 4 plus 4, 8 command cruisers. They have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 16 Vols and 2 destroyers. So, from a battle line perspective, if they did their best ships in their battle line, not including what they would probably put in there to absorb some damage, you're talking about 3 dreadnoughts and 8 command cruisers. So the 8 command cruisers, 8 times 4 is 32. 3 times 6 is 18. You're talking about a total of 50 attack factors in a battle line, in a Y-era battle line. That's a lot of attack factors. Now, they won't last very long because, you know, they don't have anything to soak up damage other than crippling some of those command cruisers. But those ships, if they attack or get attacked, are going to be very effective at whittling down the ISC fleet. However, I just want to remind us, we have over 20 light cruisers from the ISC. Their light cruiser is a 4 attack, 5 defense ship, which is almost the equivalent of the command cruiser of the Hydrons. Instead of 3 dreadnoughts, they have 2, so it's, you know, comparable. And they have, again, 20 plus destroyers, which are more than a match for the Vols. If these two fleets, the two Hydron fleets, go to task with the ISC, the ISC will certainly suffer casualties, but it is a death sentence for the Hydrons. Yes, they will bleed the ISC, but this is the sum of their military strength. This is a last gasp for them, and if they make it a, what is it? Is it the 300, the 300 Spartans that held the pass of Hermopylae, I think. But what we're talking about is that. And if they have great rolls and the ISC get terrible rolls, even then, I don't know that they survive. They will inflict crazy damage. They will be heroic in their stand. Tales will be told of these heroes. But at the end of the day, the Hydrons will fall to the ISC force if they have that fight there and then. So, how is it going to go down? Who knows? But I'm very excited to see who's going to hit what and how that's going to pepper down. I will say, just as we sort of remove these, and I'll go back to the chat in 2 seconds because I know there is going to be some chitter-chatter from the Hydron Caffeine Fiend. Let's just take a quick look over here. You can notice that the Gorn are building a base on the other side of their wormhole. So 2 things there. 1, obviously they get supply through a wormhole. That's a big kicker because that's a tech piece that's really valuable for them. And you'll notice that their strike fleet is continuing to search. They are making a foothold on that part of space. What is that going to mean going forward for the ISC, potentially the Hydrons if they survive, or the Remans? How is this going to break down? My nose is quite itchy. All right, let's go back to the chat and see what is being said. All right, Jim, yay, more Hydron Caffeine. Carl, don't worry, guys, taken care of. Posting 4-channel memes on Discord now. All right, Jim, ISC have no base network to strat move to Riemann capital. Yes, but the question is, and I do believe, just for clarification, I don't know why my nose is so itchy right now. I believe with an alliance, you can strat move to their bases because you're using their supply network if they're supported ships. It's a question. I don't know the answer for sure. We'll have to look it up. But I believe if that's a capability, that's possible. So, Jim, more like the 600 charge of the Light Brigade. Fair enough. Fair enough. Eugene, what is the Hydron new fleet that could add to the other 2 Hydron fleets? The new fleet. Hydron new fleet. I don't see a Hydron new fleet. Unless I'm... Oh, in the corner there. Okay, let's go back to the map real quick and see what Eugene's talking about. So, Hydron new fleet over here. Let's just take a quick look. I'm pretty sure that's nothing. New fleet. Oh, it's not nothing. Look at that. Sneaky. Okay, let's take a look at Hydron new fleet. So, the 4th Dreadnought, Colossus, along with a handful of Vols, 5, and a couple Triad teams. So what's going on here? Well, very clearly, there's an attempt to pull the ISC out of position, maybe sacrifice first and home fleet and get new fleet in there to do some damage. Don't get me wrong, new fleet is good, but we just talked about what was in Judgment Fleet, so let's just recap that real quick. Named echelons. In Judgment Fleet, boom, 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 boom. Judgment, there we are. So CC 4 DDs, and an FF. I don't know that it's enough to completely stop, like just the IC forces alone. I don't know if that's enough to completely stop this new fleet. But then we have to include the Riemann forces because they're allies, right? So they can work together in the defense. So with the 2 Riemann fleets, with the Dreadnought, the cruisers, and everything else, unfortunately, I don't see New Fleet being successful. Although, because of the capital assault rules, and we can talk about that in a tutorial video to come. Because of the capital assault rules, it would make it more challenging for the Riemanns, and the ISC to defend the capital. And as a result, the Hydrons might have a little bit of an advantage there. I still think it might be tough. They might be able to devastate some of the planets, depending on what they target. But I don't see them winning the fight to claim the planet, especially since they don't have fixed supply. As I take away the ships, they don't have fixed supply to the capital, so they won't be able to take it and hold it, because they got to eliminate all the ships in that hex in order to hold the capital hex. They can't just sit on the capital, by example, because that'll create a battle hex in that hex. They have to take all 3 planets, basically. So because I don't see them realistically taking all 3 planets, even with the capital assault rules, yeah, it's going to be tough. And even if First and Home Fleet attacked this minor planet first, or this developing planet first, and tried to pin the ISC ships, there are more than enough ISC ships to react to support the capital and just make that not work. It is an incredibly smart strategy on the Hydron side, and it is a tricky way to fight, and it is a strategy after my own heart. I just don't think there's enough ships there to make it work. But if it does work by some fluke or, gods of the dice roll, like, we need to create like an entire trailer celebrating the success of the Hydron Light Brigade and their ability to do that. That'll be epic if we're able to do that, or if the Hydrons are able to pull that off. All right. Daniel says, an ally can lend their strat capacity to an ally. So that's our GM, and then you hear it there first. So they can get into the Riemann capital effectively. Although, like I said, not all of those ships will be able to do that. All right. So exciting. Now let's go into the Hydron and Carnivon, and then we're going to talk about the Klingon attack. So I'll show you that here in a second. I am noticing, of course, we are below our double-digit normal for the live stream, and that's c'est dommage. But thank you so much for all of you who are here live. Thank you. It's so wonderful. And if you're catching us on the replay now, please put in your comments below and tell me what you think about the ISC Hydron dynamic. Do you think the Hydrons have a chance to be able to make that work if you are an F&E player, or you just think strategically they should be able to pull that off? Or is the anvil of the ISC just too big and too heavy and too hard to be able to bend or break? And will it just crush the Hydrons as a consequence? Who knows? Not to mention the Riemann assault that's coming. We'll have to see how that works out. So what are your thoughts? Put them in the comments below. I'd be very interested to hear your strategic thoughts on how this can play out. But without further ado, let's dive into the Carnivon and the ISC hustle. So just as a recap, you can see here that on the Hydron, this is the new Hydron homeworld, this colony. You can see there are 2 YDKs here with a Hydron, 2 planetary ground bases that are grouped together, the 2-4. You can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 YBSs. One of them is under construction north of the border. And then, of course, when it comes to the Carnivon, they've got 1, 2, 3 YBSs in this area. I want to take note of the lack of bases south of the border and in Carnivon territory. Last turn, there was a YDK in Whiskey 40. There was also a YBS in Tango 36. They used to own Echo. there used to be bases all in this area that would facilitate the Carnivons being able to get and harvest the resources in this area. Obviously, they're all gone. There have been a number of battles that have occurred that have basically eliminated all this business. We'll get to that in a moment. Let's bring back the ships real quick. So let's cover what's up here. You can see that basically the Carnivons have removed most of all their fleet, although Fox Skulk 2 is still there. Let's take a quick look at Fox Skulk. Whoops, that's Wolf. Excuse me. Carnivon Fox Skulk. So Fox Skulk 2 is a CCCA drone bombardment cruiser, drone bombardment destroyer, 4 destroyers, and a total of 9 frigates. Not nothing, but not the bulk of their fleet. Understandably so, considering what's happening south of the border. But they're sitting there on their YBS, and they are ready and able to react and respond in support of the Hydran capital should it be attacked. Interesting to note that this K wormhole, if we scroll up and slide over, just as a quick reminder, is this wormhole for the Lyrans. So if the Lyrans decided to pop through, assuming they have the technology to do so, that could be interesting. Just saying. And there are 2 colonies here that they could use as a supply if, just saying. Anyways, as you can see, Carnivon forces are in this area. You've got basically a bunch of non-combat forces, survey ships, both freighter and cruiser, frigate with a convoy, and then there's a frigate, basically a survey ship with a frigate escort and a convoy here, and then a large exploration freighter here as well. Interesting to note, again, based on the supply, all of the ships basically west of here are essentially out of supply. There is a convoy here which could provide extended supply to 1, 2, 3, assuming 3, let's say 4. If it had 4 supply, they could provide supply to this convoy and this first reserve fleet. But other than that, these 2 ships are out of supply. Now let's focus on the big stuff. Okay. Look at this capital. So there were a bunch of battles that occurred, and we'll just do a quick summary of the current state of affairs, and then I'm going to take you into one of the battles that occurred in X-Ray 36 and talk to you about how that happened, or how that went down, so to speak. Great contingency order writing by the Carnivons, by the way. Okay, let's look at their home system. And they've got basically a Den fleet, and then a stack of ships. So let's look, home fleet and a stack of ships. So let's look at home fleet. Carnivon. My eyes are failing me. Here we are. Let's put it right down here in the corner. We've got Carnivon home fleet, which is 5 frigates, 2 crippled, 2 drone bombardment destroyers, a destroyer, a light cruiser, a cruiser, and a DN. In addition to that, we have 2 drone bombardment destroyers and then a whole bunch of cripples. Oh, and a tug, excuse me, and a whole bunch of cripples. We have 1, 2, 3, 5 crippled frigates, a crippled OYLR, which is a captured ship they had from before, which is a 3-3 ship, which is crippled to a 2. They have a wire drone bombardment, or a drone bombardment destroyer, 2 crippled cruisers, and then that's it. We're going to talk about that in a second. And then, of course, here on this planet, they've got their big guns. Diamond Fleet and Den Fleet. This is dangerous. This is dangerous. Whew. There's Diamond Fleet. That's bad. And Den Fleet. So let's look at Den Fleet. So Den Fleet's not much, but Diamond Fleet is ridiculous. Okay. So sitting here on this planet and within supply is, like I said, Diamond, Den, and they've got a collection of 3 frigates and 2 light cruisers in addition to what they've got here. So Den Fleet, not too much there. There's a dreadnought with a command cruiser, a light cruiser, and a drone bombardment cruiser. But Diamond Fleet is the kicker with a dreadnought, command cruiser, 3 cruisers, light cruiser, destroyer, 9 frigates, and look at all these drone bombardment cruisers. 7 of them. That's dangerous. And then, of course, they've got a tug. So, dangerous, without a doubt, and very interesting to see. So let's talk about what happened. You can see that there's South Fleet, Southeast Fleet, and then, of course, Red Fleet here with an E4M. So let's do a quick recap of what happened. So in the last turn, South Fleet and Southeast Fleet, they were all one fleet at the time, were located here after a series of maneuvers, and basically through this supply network had fixed supply to Zoid and therefore the ability to attack the homeworld. There was a YDK here and a YDK here in Whiskey 40, and the desire was to be able to quickly hit the homeworld and take out their slipways, and of course, economically cripple them. However, there were two major fleets that were based here on the YDK, and those were fundamentally Home Fleet and Den Fleet, I believe, as Ruby and Coyote 1 were based on the YDK that was here at Whiskey 40. So the M ships did this maneuver. They moved into Victor 37, then into Whiskey 37, then into X-Ray 37, and we're going to move down here to attack. Once they moved into South Fleet, or Southeast Fleet, which was divided in two at the time, once they moved into Whiskey 37, ships moved into Whiskey 37 to pin them. The sequence of events was once the ships moved into Victor 37, using extended reaction range rules, those two fleets moved into Whiskey 37. Then Southeast Fleet moved into Whiskey 37 to engage them, and that happened there. At that point, there were rules written or orders written whereby the second half of South Fleet, or second half of those two fleets, was going to move to attack the YDK. Because if they were going to move to pin that fleet, knowing that that was most likely going to happen, then try and take out the YDK. So they did try and take out the YDK, and they moved around that pin fleet and then went into the YDK. But the Carnivon had written their contingency orders in such a way that they were able to react back into the YDK hex. So there was a fleet of Klingon ships and a defensive fleet there to defend the YDK. And that was very interesting. Now, I want to share this rule with you because it was very enlightening. Oh, I can't share the rule with you right now. So for those of us in the Discord channel, I will share this rule with you later. But effectively, there is a rule in reaction movement that indicates specifically if you use extended reaction movement to respond to an enemy, you can then use the second half of that, which is your primary reaction movement. So extended reaction movement being 2 hexes and reaction movement being the 1 hex. So if you use your extended, but then not use the 1 hex reaction movement as a follow-up, you can then react with that 1 hex reaction movement to the fleet that initiated your extended or triggered your extended reaction movement, or any other ship that may happen during that turn. That was a rule that I was not aware of. I thought once you trigger the extended reaction, I thought when you triggered the extended reaction movement, that was it. You were done. You'd spent your reaction. I was incorrect. I did not anticipate this, and Daniel and I, the GM, had a nice powwow about it because I initially thought, wait, this can't happen. We went through the rules. Daniel was, as a diligent GM, showed that rule. I was like, oh, that's what it is. I'm hooped. And then we went forward. So in that vein, let me take a second and I will share with you the rules or the battle that occurred at that YDK. Let me share that with you. Oh, I want to change the view here. I want to change the view or change the zoom maybe. Stand by, sorry. There we go. Okay. So this is the battle that occurred in X-Ray 36. This was a battle between a Klingon D6M and 7, it's a typo, E6Ms, or sorry, E4Ms. So the E4M, let me just do this so it's a little bit easier for everybody. There we go. The E4M is the overpowered frigate that the Klingons have. It is a 4 attack, 3 defense. And the Klingon D6M is the straight 7 ship, 7 attack, 7 defense. The Orion forces, because I had contracted some Orion forces to assist with this. And so those 2 cruisers are 8 attack, 7 defense ships. Defending the base was a Carnarvon YDK, a DN, a YCC, a drone bombardment cruiser, 2 YCAs, a YCL, a drone bombardment destroyer, 6 frigates, the OYLR, which is the 3-3 ship, and 2 wolf teams. In this battle, because of the MTEX ships, we introduced variable battle intensity, which had not been done prior to this point. But with the introduction of MTEC in this campaign, Daniel, our GM, is now introducing variable burr, which you can check out in our combat tutorial in the playlist on this channel. We're introducing variable burr for combat involving M ships going forward. So the TLDR was that I got a bunch of ships crippled, which was basically all the ships I brought in, and the Carnarvons crippled 2 cruisers, 6 frigates, and their OYLR. I had to retreat, and they were not able to pursue. So let's talk about what happened. Fundamentally, because it's a base, I offered an approach battle. The approach battle was accepted, and I fought 3 rounds of approach battle and then retreated after that point. The intent was to cripple or cause casualty damage, and we'll go why in a second here. Round 1. Burr 7. Understandably, because of the heel nippers, and we'll talk about that right here in a second, heel nippers are a capability that the Carnarvons have, which is effectively a 1-point directed damage mauler, basically, that they can use against me. But it's not able to be used unless if you have a burr of 6 and below. So I went with minimum burr, 2. Carnarvons went with 4, and the variable burr with a +1 brought us up to 7. The Klingons' Compot was 47, total of 18 damage, and the Carnarvon Combat with 37, so 14 damage. Carnarvons used 7 heel nippers, directed damage against the Orions, which was interesting. Klingons ended up crippling 3 E4Ms, and the Carnarvons 3 FFs, the OLR, and 1 of their YCAs. Round 2. Burr 6. Variable burr didn't really add or subtract anything, and of course we went 2 and 4, meaning no heel nippers. Klingon Compot was 37, Carnarvon 35. We equaled out at 10 damage apiece. I had to cripple another 3 E4Ms, and they had to cripple 2 frigates and 1 of their drone bombardment destroyers. Third round, Burr 7. Again, variable burr kicked us up to 7, although ironically, or interestingly enough, no heel nippers this time. Carnarvon Compot 31, Klingon Compot 31. Both came out at 9. The Klingons had to cripple their D6M and an E4M, and the Carnarvons crippled their YCA and YFF. So at the end of the day, as again we said, the entire offensive force from the Klingons was crippled, and we crippled a bunch of Carnarvon forces. But we did not, at the end of the day, attack the base. So that's how that worked. So very interesting, right? The sort of dynamic. So now that you saw that and that how that all played out, let's go back to the map and see where everything is. So after we retreated, South Fleet stayed in place. And you can see here, South Fleet is now in Whiskey 37. Southeast Fleet is in Victor 37. They had a battle in Whiskey 37, and that fleet, this was a trick that I was trying to catch the Carnarvon in, but it was sort of pointed out to them, and they didn't do this. The sequence of battles, because there was one in X-Ray 36 and one in Whiskey 37, if the Carnarvon retreated out of Whiskey 37 into X-Ray 36, which would be the normal retreat priority, although they can choose to retreat into a different hex. If they retreated into X-Ray 36, then all the ships in that hex would have to retreat out of the hex, and they would fight at Burr 0. I would have Burr 10, and I would be able to devastate them in one round, causing a lot of damage. Also, the base would have been left undefended, and I would have been able to pop the base. So this was an attempt, the sequence of the way that battle worked out, this was an attempt to be able to catch the Carnarvons in a tactic whereby they would have retreated into the hex where they were fighting another battle. That would have forced them to retreat out of that hex and pull all those ships out, and I would have been able to get the YDK. It didn't work out. They ended up retreating into a different hex, and it is what it is. But you have to take a chance. So we took a chance. Didn't quite work out exactly the way we wanted. That's fine. Diamond Fleet and Den Fleet came down here, pushed Red Fleet off this hex, which is fine. And so that's where they are now. So you can see Diamond and Den sitting there. Excuse me. And of course, we've got the collection of cripples here on the capital homeworld. Now, let me just map out what happened down here with Ruby Fleet, Coyote Band 1, and this YBS. Blue Fleet went in to attack this YBS. And because Ruby and Coyote were sitting on top of a YDK, they extended reaction, a 2-hex reaction range, reacted to support the attack on the YBS. That's a great move. The problem was I anticipated that and set up an opportunity for ships that were based here on East Fleet to be able to attack the YDK that was there. So once those ships moved off of that location, they moved into, the Ruby and Coyote Band 1 moved to attack or defend this base. My ships moved behind them to pop the YDK. And so that's what happened. Now, I ended up popping the YDK. I didn't approach battle on this base and then retreated. And then Ruby and Den Fleet went in to attack the fleet that I had here, which had stayed in the hex to be able to cut off supply to Ruby and Den Fleet. Ruby and Coyote Band 1. Now, because of the combat rules and when supply is calculated at the beginning of a combat round, if you are in supply, you are considered in supply for the purposes of the combat. So that worked out the way it did. So we retreated out of that battle and went down here to Joint Task Force, where Joint Task Force Gamma is right now. But nonetheless, a very interesting opportunity, ended up popping the YDK. Why do I keep pointing out these bases and these base destructions? Because, again, let me take away the ships. What do you... Oh, and I'll move this so you can better see what's here. What do you see? I see 1, 2, 3, 4 YBSs and 1 YDK. Let's pull up the Carnarvon home system and see what they have there. They have 1 YDK there as well. This represents a choke point for their ability to recover and recuperate from any attack. They have no YDK near the border. Their only YDK sort of in range is at their homeworld, and they have 1 other YDK north of their homeworld. So that's a total of 16 points of repair, and then they have a collection of YBSs that are sort of scattered in such a way that it will make it very difficult for them to be able to repair ships in a way that will be effective in the fight. By comparison, we have 2 YDKs here, 2 YDKs here, and obviously a collection of bases sort of in the back end. The second phase of the Klingon attack had 2 specific goals. One was, as you can see, the economic crippling of the Carnarvon by taking their resources, planets, resources, and so on. And 2, eliminating the infrastructure that would allow them, the Carnarvon, the ability to be able to harvest the resources if they ever got them back, and be able to facilitate supply to be able to mount a counterattack. So after these 2 turns, the second phase of the Klingon attack, what we have here effectively is a crippling of their economy, reducing them by over 10 EP, and sort of a routing of their infrastructure to the point where this is the only, other than obviously the planet can't destroy the planet, but this is the only fixed supply point that's within range to actually do any damage to me. And as you can probably imagine, based on what will end up happening over the next turn or 2, it may not survive. And if it does, it's a very focused point of attack for the Carnarvon potentially. and a limited range at which they can hurt me. So, to go back to the title of this video, how to launch a devastating attack. This is the second phase in a multi-phase plan. I won't say how many exactly, but this is the second phase in a multi-phase plan. The first was to devastate their bases, of which we destroyed 6 of them in the first round. And in the second phase, there were a total of 14 battles. I believe it was 12 of them. 12 of them were the initial Klingon attacks to be able to take resources and destroy their bases. Again, in this last round, or this last turn, we destroyed a YDK and a YBS in addition to the bases we destroyed last turn. And as you can see, have severely limited the Carnivon's ability to repair ships that they've crippled and mount a counterattack against us. So, what do you think? What do you think of all that business, all that chitter chatter? Tony, you're out to lunch, you're crazy, you're going to get stomped. Because at the end of the day, the Carnivons do have a bigger fleet. They've got like 100, what was it? Let's look at the fleet cap again real quick. I think it was like 120 ships versus my 90. Yeah, they have 120 ships, and the Klingons have 91. So that's a 30 ship deficiency, or basically a third of my fleet. They have more against me. Now, I have the advantage of having M-Tech ships, but how close are the Carnivon to M-Tech ships? I don't know. Probably pretty close. And how is that going to impact? Oh, ladies and gentlemen, another coffee has been fired. Fired by Wayne Dan. Cheers, Wayne. So, was that useful? Was that breakdown of all of this sort of strategy in combat, was that useful to you? Did you enjoy? Was it valuable to be able to see that battle? Was it useful to be able to talk about the strategy and sort of the two-phase approach that's going on here? Was that useful for you in any way, shape, and form? If it was, please put your comments down below. If it wasn't, well, put your comments down below and tell me to stop doing it, because I don't want to bore you as we go forward. Let's take a quick look at the chitter chatter. What do we have here? Eugene, Orion M-Tech base in the bottom of Carney space. Can Carnies rent M-ships for use elsewhere? Possibly. Bill Smith, the Carney drone bombardment ships paid for themselves. So interesting to note, when it comes to drone bombardment, they didn't factor into the combat because the drones that they have are not fast enough to attack ships. They can only attack fixed targets. That may change in the future. When it does, oh my God, things are going to get sick. Another reason why it's important to economically cripple the Carnivons as we go forward. Oh, and this is, I'll get to that in just another second. There's a piece there about the economy that's important. They can from next turn, Gene. William Bill Linton says the rule Tony is referencing is 205.34. I believe that's correct. It's the rule about the extended reaction. It's really important for everybody to know. Please, for players, check that out. It's extremely valuable. I didn't know about it. It burned me. Tried to make the best of it as we went forward, but you know, it is what it is. Jim. Oh, and so just to point out there, for a player like myself who's been playing this game in some way, shape, or form for some time, I'm fairly proficient with the rules. I mean, after all, I do the odd tutorial about this. There are still rules in the Bible-esque size of this reference that ADB puts out that even I, of course, don't know. And you have to go searching sometimes to be able to suss out the rules and figure out exactly what's going on. So, you know, if any player ever feels like they're at a huge disadvantage because they don't know the rules, the references are there. Like the rules are there for you to check out, and not everybody knows all the rules, or can they really know them all the time. I literally just got burned by another reaction rule again. It's the second time I've been burned by that. All right. Bill, 57 in 19 parts. 57 in 19 parts? Oh, the Carnies also have a YDK at the New Hydron Homeworld. Correct. Absolutely. I'm sorry. I forgot about that. But of course, it's so far away. I mean, is it really going to contribute to the Klingon battle or Klingon war? I don't know. We'll see. Jim says, Tony, you're boring. Of course. Of course. Good rundown. Okay. Bill, Jim, you're just mad. Wayne Den says, really like that combat explained. You can't be petty. Hey, you can't be petty. He says, the details make the live stream so much fun to watch. Thank you. You can't be petty. Yes. Well, hopefully, like I say, hopefully that brings you value as we go forward here. Okay. So let's bring up the ships again and go back to the map. We'll quickly round out the Klingon turn. So as you can see, ships are all over the place. Long story short is the ships were moved in such a way to be able to take and captured key strategic points and resources, which of course they have. One key takeaway for me, because a lot of these single ship combat events were small scale combat. Wow. So in previous games, we hadn't used small scale combat in this way before, which arguably we should have. Small scale combat sucks. It is incredibly frustrating because basically, when you have two equal ships attacking each other and they both do damage to one another, you can resolve one of those points of damage, referred to as a casualty in the rules, by retreating. And so instead of damaging, crippling, or destroying a ship in the process of an encounter, you just force it to retreat, which in my situation, I was intending to destroy them, not necessarily have them retreat unscathed, which was incredibly annoying. But at the end of the day, we got the resources. That was the point to deny it. Oh, and let me talk about the resource piece real quick. Now, every player plays their game differently. Everyone manages their resources differently. Everyone basically spends their money the way they want to and manages that balance sheet in a very bespoke way. It is very common for most of us to be running a deficit of some type. Even in peacetime, running a deficit sort of above minus 10 EP is best practice because A, you can only go up to minus 10 EP or 20% of your economy. Interesting to note now that the Klingons are above 60. So minus 20% or minus 10 by default. But when you're at war, you can go to the maximum of your EP. So what ends up happening is because many players, not all, will spend almost the max that they can during their war turns, meaning that if they had, for example, 44 EP income, might spend their deficit down to a minus 40, by example, and be constantly working at a deficit in that way. By specifically targeting the Carnarvon economy, there is a possibility that they may start their next turn in deficit, meaning that they might be at minus, let's say, minus 40 EP, and with only, what was their EP income? 31. So that might leave them at a negative number when they start their next turn. If you start your turn at a negative number, you cannot spend any money on research, on building, on repairs, on anything. Look up the rules around deficit spending. If you start even at negative 0.1, you're hooped and you can't spend anything. You have to wait until the next turn for your balance sheet to go into the black before you can spend any money. If you're even in the black by 0.1 EP, you're good. If you're below that number by 0.1 EP, you're hooped and you're in a position where you can't spend any money. No repairs, no new ships, no nothing. That is going to hurt. And that was intentional in this case because after moving in such a way to capture those resources, the initiative has flipped. In this last turn, turn 74, the Klingons went first and the Carnarvons went second. I moved, then he moved. Now with the initiative switching, he's going to move first, and then I move second, which effectively gives the Carnarvon a 2-move advantage before I can respond. And the sequence to be able to take out infrastructure and then capture the resources not only gives me the advantage on initiative for that first 2 phases, but allows me to potentially catch the Carnarvon, maybe, in a trap where they've overspent themselves, as is many players have that impulse. They've overspent themselves to the point where they can't catch up. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. Interesting. I'm noticing I'm still stuttery a little bit. I'm going to try something new. I'm going to kill the loop on the background. So the background's going to stay static. And I'm going to see if that fixes the problem. Because there is I've noticed the stutteriness is due to what's called a render time. So when I watch the live stream, the render time fluctuates, which is normal. And if the render time is too high, then you see the stutter, potentially. And if I stop that, is it going to change the stutter? We shall see. I'm going to close out some other windows here and maybe increase the opportunity for it to chill out and relax. All right, let's go back to the map real quick, and we will see here that, again, ships have taken over these resources, and they are basically, you can see a bunch of cripples here. YDK will be finished. No fleet can be able to hit that YDK in any reasonable amount of time, and so on and so forth. The rest of the Empire, what can we see? We can see, oh, I've discovered a wormhole. That's interesting. The Tango wormhole. Wow. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so what does this mean? This is the Tango wormhole that goes to Federation space. It's moved. The Tango wormhole that used to be on Kilo 49, which is why that base was there and everything else, has now moved down to Kilo 52. Interesting. So, very, very interesting. Okay, well, obviously we're going to have to move some ships down there and sort that stuff out. And I'll have to go check out my turn, but if you can see here that I may have made a mistake with regards to my new builds not moving where they needed to go, as my new builds are sitting here on the homeworld. I'll have to check my turn. That might have been a administrative error on my side, in which case I'm kind of screwed in that regard, but that's okay. It's all good. I have a massive fleet of M ships now on my homeworld. Okay, so we'll have to figure out what that means in the future for the Tango wormhole moving, but it has moved, which is very, very interesting. We can see there is a YCOM on its way to the YDK, and then it'll disperse there. Let's pick up the pace here and carry on with the Romulans. You can see the exploration is carrying on or moving on in the toe of the boot as well as the heel of the boot. We can see that there is a, is that YBS under construction? Yeah, on top of this wormhole, very nice. We can see that the Raider fleet is continuing to move and cause havoc. I believe they may have destroyed a base in the process. Dave, you'll have to let us know, the Romulan player, and see how that goes. As we move up, you can see the exploration continues pushing towards the center, both from the Gorn and the Romulans. The Tholians still hanging out up there near the border. And of course, along the border with the Romulans, you can see that we still have 4th Fleet. Let's take out Gorn 4th Fleet. We've got 4 destroyers, 2 frigates, and a command cruiser sitting there on that base, trying to potentially offer some assistance. Might be interesting to park a fleet on top of this wormhole to prevent the Juggernauts from running away. Just an idea. I don't know if the Romulans and the Gorn have thought about that, but something to think about. We've got a diplomat here, obviously having success with the Avians at Glory, now friendly to the Gorn. This is good, so eventually they'll get that. The Amoeba seems to be running rampant in the back end of Gorn space, and it looks like Home Fleet is in a position to be able to potentially deal with it. Let's look at Gorn Home Fleet. All right. Oh, wow, that is quite the fleet. You've got 6, total of 10 destroyers. You've got 5 frigates, a light cruiser, 2 command cruisers, and the Dreadnought. Oh, the Gorn are starting to rise. I see it. I feel it. It's good. Home Fleet is on its way to take out the Amoeba. Just be careful about your battle lines and how you manage that battle. It'll be very interesting to hear from Smitty about how, or Captain Adam, as we call him, how that Amoeba battle goes. We've got base mobile fleet over here, over on top of the Victor wormhole, and of course, like I said, the exploration up the massive free transit zone towards the center. Let's roll into. Oh, I will. I realize that my head is in the way. Let me move myself over to the other side. Silly me. All right, let's roll up here. We can see Green Dragon over in the corner has successfully held off against the Tholians. Let's check out Tholian Home Fleet real quick. Tholian Home Fleet, you can see, has 4 cruisers, 3 destroyers. They have crippled a total of 12 YPCs, and they have a couple of commandos, these shock troops that was mentioned in the Galactic News. Green Dragon, by consequence, if we look up the minor fleets. Oh, no, I guess they're Borak. Excuse me. Borak. There we go. Borak. Green Dragon. Green Dragon is a bunch of crippled frigates, but they still have 3 destroyers, YCL, CA, and DN. And because they have a YDK in the hex, they will be able to, let me just see. If you flip that, yeah, it's a 1 EP flip. So they can do one, they can repair all those frigates for next turn. Bang. All those frigates will be available next turn. And of course, the Tholians cannot. So it is a good possibility that the Green Dragon will hold out for some time. Not only will they be able to repair all those frigates, they will also be able to repair, depending on how they want to mix that up, they can also repair their YDK. It can self-repair as long as it's not crippled. As we can see here, there's a YCOM with a tug working its way down the FTZ. Interesting. It'll be interesting to see what that's going to look like. Rolling up in, I'm just conscious of time, rolling up into the, well, let's just take a quick look. We've got cruiser. Oh, okay. So we've got the large exploration cruiser in the neutral zone. One here on the corner. Like I said, we're expecting a Juggernaut faction in there shortly. We've got a large exploration freighter up here near the border. And of course, like I said, the activity down there with the Green Dragon. So very interesting to see what's going on. Second fleet, third fleet sitting there on top of those wormholes. Not much going on, but the Tholians are definitely on the move. We've got the Federation working towards the center. As always, they've got 10th Fleet and Expeditionary Fleet. This is the fleet that's going off to help the Lyrans. Let's take a quick look at the Federation Expeditionary Fleet. Okay, 4 frigates, 2 destroyers, 2 light cruisers, a commando cruiser, 2 cruisers, and a command cruiser. So 10 ships on their way to assist. We'll see how that goes. Bases along the border are good. Second Fleet. Let's see here. Federation's Second Fleet. We've got a total of 5 frigates, 2 cruisers, and a command cruiser. Nothing much has changed there. We can see that they are still happy plus over the Kzinti planet in Federation space. Again, the luck just doesn't seem to be getting any better for the Federation. 7th Fleet, Federation 7th Fleet, is a total of 5 frigates, still a cruiser and a command cruiser. Now that that wormhole has moved, interesting to note its effect on, I'm going to have to go build another base and sort of plug our hole on the Klingon end a little bit better. So very interesting to see that. And then, of course, we're back up into Hydron space. Okay, so that was a little fast and furious on the back end of the map. Like I say, I'm just conscious of time already. In this live stream, we are at an hour and a half. Again, the jitteriness still continues. I will have to continue and endeavor to try and fix that. I don't know really what else to do to be able to resolve that, but I will have to obviously work hard at figuring out that piece. Hopefully it's not distracting for you, and rather all this information and the sharing of all this is still fun and loving for you. I hope you are enjoying it. I hope it is good. As far as all this content goes. Saratoga is actually in a Whiskey 20 building and says, oh, geez, look at this. More commentary. Let's jump in here before we move on. Let's go. What do we got here? Oh, my goodness. Okay. So, Bill Smith says, Captain Adam, used as maulers the heel nippers. Yep. Wormhole Tango moved in Klingon space, Bill says. Yep, absolutely. It's so frustrating. Pesky wormholes. Eugene Bland. Is the resource in Papa Papa 40 going to be renamed after the legendary E1 captain that captured it? Now twice? It should be. I hear Eugene. we're going to have to talk with the GM. We're going to have to rename those resources. Jim Howard, fixation, of course. Double figures watching. Bill Linton says, if the Carnivons are in the red at the start of the next turn, they will also incur additional war turns as punishment. I didn't know that. We'll have to check that out. He quotes the rule 447.22 and 23 and 24. We'll have to check that out. Ooh, that'll be so interesting. Eugene Bland, is the E1 on the site of the old wormhole location and the other legendary E1 captain that explored wormholes alone earlier in the game? That is correct. That could explain the movement of the wormhole, as in it was running away from that E1 captain. I don't know. Daniel Eastland, that was a DM error. Klingon new build should have strap moved. Did have strap move orders. Will fix in the updated map. Okay, so they'll be updated. I figured that was the case, but, you know, we are live. Eugene Bland, E1 captains are so fearsome. Even the wormhole will move. Yes, E1 captains. I feel like we'll promote them to the secret project that's underway. More on that in upcoming live streams. But once our secret project is revealed, perhaps we shall name it E1 captain or something like that. It'll be very interesting to see. Eugene E1 captains are so fearsome, even wormholes move. Of course, Jim, that place is such a hole of a place. Glory, he says. Tisk. Bill, yes, the Raider fleet did destroy a fleet. Bang, there you go. So, did it destroy a fleet of ships, or did it destroy a base? Let's go quickly to the map real quick, and I'll just pull up the Juggernaut. Where is it? Minor fleets. Juggernaut. Raider. Look at that. The Raider fleet, even if it did engage anybody, it did not cripple anyone, or it didn't get crippled at all. It's still fully functional with 3 DDs, 6 FFs, a CL, and a CA. That thing is fierce. Okay, back on the attack. All right. Repair isn't cheap, and miners don't gain cash as fast as players. That is very true. The question is, how much do they gain? If we look at Green Dragon, they are a medium planet, and so they do get 4 EP, which is more than enough for them to repair all their ships at half EP per point. So we'll have to see how that goes. Bill Linton, Saratoga actually in Whiskey 20. Yep. And tisk, evil grin. All right, everybody. Okay. So that was a little fast and furious at the end. I hope that you enjoyed this particular live stream despite the odd little jitteriness. I think I may have fixed the problem. It was all with regards to one video. So the background video here, let me loop this. Loop and play. So the background that you see here, the starscape, I had a different one that was sort of nebulous. And when it was playing, or when it was in my production, it was causing it may have been causing everything to jitter. It looks as if, as I move around here, everything seems to be A-okay. So it may have been just that one file that was causing all the problems. It's gone. No more jitter for you. We're going to keep things running smooth on the production here on this end. So I will do my best to make things looking sharp and picturesque for you going forward. Thank you very much for all your time and attention today. And of course, with 133% of our goal with 4 total coffees, thank you very much. Not only to the Juggernauts, Wayne, Carl, and of course, Hydron Caffeine. The best caffeine. The caffeine that gets you through the live stream with energy. Woo! Smitty says BBs or D6Ds. Maybe both. Who knows? Stuff is coming your way. Exciting. I'm so excited for the next couple turns, not only because the war with the Carnivons is, from my end, so much fun. Again, huge props to our Carnivon player, Terry. Great contingency orders. You hooped me, caught me with unexpected, so to speak, with the way the reaction movement worked. And good job for you. Fantastic counter maneuver on your reaction orders or your contingency orders. You definitely have caught me in sort of an awkward position, and you're definitely going to get some significant Klingon casualties in the coming turns. It's going to be very exciting as we move forward, and I'm certainly going to lose some ships, but It's all part of the fun. Loving playing the war game with you all. I hope you're enjoying watching it. For that, I am Tony. Thank you for joining us here at Star Trek New Worlds, and I will see you next week. And of course, for all of you on Discord, I'll see you in the Discord channel shortly after this show. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your Saturday and week. I will see you next Saturday at 11 o'clock Pacific. Bye for now.